Now to the crux of the issue today, talking about Nigeria's emergence as a forerunner in the African startup space. It has been on a steady rise over the past few years. In 2020, a total of $150.3 million, 21.4% of Africa's total, was raised across 85 Nigerian startups. Nigerian startups have been able to distinguish themselves from the pack by raising prodigious amount compared to the rest of the startups industry in Africa. Now, the likes of Flutterwave, BeatFX, Kuda, Paystack, Piggyvest, Helium Health, Nectopol have been able to weather the storm and remain relevant. If Nigeria is able to fully leverage the tailwinds brought on by the success and huge popularity of the startups and fintech sectors, the country will be poised to experience a phenomenal amount of growth and development in a short period of time. Now, we focus on the service sector in Nigeria, the future and opportunities. We'll get talking now with Chizoba Akune, training manager, Nectopol. She would be taking us further into this discuss. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you this year. This is our first time. So happy New Year, actually.
Happy New Year too, and happy Valentine. Let's join everything.
Okay, well. Okay, now let's look at the startup in Nigeria, especially with these indices or these statistics released here talking about Nigeria topping startups in Africa. What do you make of the statistics, and how do you think the Nigerian startup service sector is doing?
Now, I feel that I believe that the service setup is doing very well. And then when you look at it, you find out that SMEs are really the ones that drive the economy. And service providers are linking, manufacturers to those things that they need. For example, you just gave the example of some of these industries, and you could see that these industries, most of them don't really have products, but they have the ability to be a bridge between the consumer and the manufacturers, giving everybody what they want and making life easier, and they are really thriving. So yes, the service industry in Nigeria is an industry that is poised really to bring in more GDP into our nation's economy.
So you agree with the statistics that we're topping in Africa?
I do.
So if we are topping in Africa, why aren't we seeing a lot of development? Because yes, you mentioned the fact that startups have a huge role in contributing to the GDP of any nation. Why aren't we seeing that, that growth when it comes to the Nigerian GDP generally?
Well, the first thing you have to look at is that other countries, basically, what they do is they encourage the startups by having funds for them, like by creating an enabling environment for these businesses to thrive and grow. Now, in the Nigerian economy, I always like to say this, but it may not be politically correct, but the Nigerian businesses drive Nigeria, not the other way around. And what do I mean by that? The Nigerian economy is not open enough to accommodate new businesses and support them, give them the needed support, the needed education, the needed things that they need to be able to thrive. So for you see businesses that are thriving in Nigeria, really we have to clap for them, even if their names are not up there, because despite or in spite of the surrounding environment that is militating against their business growth, they are able to not only start, but they are able to service some individuals or serve companies or some groups, and I feel that that's a big deal.
But let's look at some of the challenges that these startups encounter, especially when it comes to growing their businesses, when it comes to even getting capital to start the businesses.
So the most important thing that you have to look out for is funding is one of those things that they need. Because when you look at most of these startups that were able to make the names or break, shatter the glass ceiling literally, what they did is that they didn't get incomes from Nigeria. All these monies that you're seeing, they're always quoting it in dollars or in pounds or something. So definitely they went across the borders to get these funds. So when you're a new startup in Nigeria, especially when you're in the service industry, you first of all need to understand what you want to do, and then you have to, get your books ready, get everything that you need ready, have your structures ready, so that you can be able to start accessing those grants that they have in other countries. and Silicon Valley and everyone who wants to bring in their money, so they can look at your business and say, okay, this is something that we want to partner with. So basically the first thing is funding. Funding is very important. Getting your structures in place is very important.
That's a business plan.
Yeah, your business plan. It's also very important. And then, most service companies, they are little, the company owners are also, they share a common purse with the company. And yes, as much as we scream about that, you find out that but they don't have a budget. They don't understand pricing system. They don't understand all these things. So these are things that they need to be able to understand if they want to try.
Do you need training for that?
Yes, you need training to understand pricing, because when you look at pricing, what most people tell you is their profit is not really the profit. Even if you're a service company, I know you're not manufacturing any goods. You don't have any products that you're selling, but you have a service that you're giving. So you should be able to quantify that this product I'm giving, this thing I'm giving to this person, this is the value of it. And the truth is this: those things are intangible, but I believe that they are worth more than the physical products that you see. They are worth more than that. So if we can be able to understand how to price ourselves, how to price our services, because most of these things, most of these companies, they do it, most of these people that start up service companies, it's things that they are naturally inclined to doing. So they feel that people will really want to pay for those services. But trust me, there are a lot of people that need those things that they have, that don't have those opportunities. But if they see someone who can render it to them, they are ready to pay a premium for that.
Okay, so you've talked about funding, you've talked about having a business plan and pricing, of course. But we're looking at other challenges when it comes to the Nigerian economy. We know that we have a peculiar economy, especially when it comes to enabling environment, when it comes to issues like power, road infrastructure, and all of that. How can the average startup owner in Nigeria weather this storm?
Wow. Okay. So basically, if you're providing service, I want to believe that you'll be using either your mobile phone or your laptops. Basically, these are the first things that you need. So the first challenge you have to look at is power. How do I get lights to charge my device and then use? The second thing you have to look at is data. Data is actually expensive in Nigeria. I don't know about you, but data is very expensive. So you have to look at, okay, what service provider is going to provide me with the best internet connection that is stable, because sometimes you may be talking with a prospective client and then the network starts to shake and then it looks blurry. So that's the second thing you have to look out for. The third thing is you have to look out for a space that you can be able to speak, and then the space is conducive for your listener. So yes, you might have to look for a shared office space, not rented office space, shared office space that you could just walk in, use for 1 hour, 2 hours, or whatever you want to do and leave. Or if you have a friend who has an office, you could share the office space. I don't believe in anything cast in stone. I believe in starting. Just start where you are, and by the time you're consistent, you will grow. That's what I know. So I believe in looking outside the box. How can I thrive outside the box in the midst of those limitations, not allowing them to stifle me so that I can grow? Yeah,
looking at, we're still bringing it down to the Nigerian economy, because I know that, yes, the country has survived several recessions, and there have also been predictions of how the nation might be experiencing some form of inflation, the highest in 2022. How do you think that these entrepreneurs, these startup owners can position themselves to take advantage? Because, of course, in every challenge, there's always an opportunity. How can they position themselves to take advantage of these challenges?
Okay, one thing I believe is this: in every recession, and this is something that has been written over time, in every recession, you find out that new businesses emerge and become leading names. So what I would advise is, number one, look at those gaps that you can be able to fill. So everybody's running to the tech space. Yes, it's good, but in the tech space, where exactly do you want to play? Everybody is running into manufacturing. You don't need to run into that. We need middlemen. We need middlemen that would take the things from point A to point B. You could do a logistics company. There's so many things you could do. So look at your strength. Where can you play? You don't necessarily have to use your money to start it, but just position yourself in the middle and then be the go-between there. And then also another thing is visibility. You have to be very visible. You can't wink in the dark. It doesn't work that way. So you need to be visible. Let people see what you're doing. And
that's using the social media space.
Using the social media space, use every space usable so that people can see you. And then another thing is this: even though yes, there is the gist that a recession is coming and inflation is coming and this, there is no need to panic. That's the first thing I would say. Don't panic, and don't think of what you're going to do, how you're going to come out. Just be consistent on what you're doing, and I believe that you would grow. Look out for opportunities that are around, and then if there's a way to diversify what you're doing across the border, please do.
How do you
please do? Like
exporting
exporting your services. So there are a lot of online platforms that you could work virtually. You could offer your service virtually. There are a lot of them. So you could look into those virtual service companies and then offer those services that you do at a price to people in other countries. In that way, you are earning in foreign currency. So that's another thing that startups should look into. So don't be content with just the naira. Begin to think, begin to expand your imagination. How can my company earn in dollars? How can my company earn in pounds? Those are things that you should be thinking about, because you can't.
It means you have to also upgrade. You have to be in tune with your international contemporaries, because if what you're producing is not at par with what the international community sees as acceptable, then you may not be able to export.
No. Service companies really are not exporting products. They are exporting
services.
Intangible things.
Yes, what I'm saying is, in terms of your services too, you also have to be at par with what the standard is for the international community. You cannot just limit yourself to the local way of doing things. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Omobolani, you have a very good point there. So, and that's what I believe that every startup should do. Read extensively. Look at what's happening in other countries. If you need to take free courses, there are free courses online that won't cost you. Look at some sites that do that. Study, read, find out what's happening there, and position yourself.
Now, still talking funding, you know, you'd recall last year the board of directors of the African Development Bank, that's the AFDB, approved a loan of $170 million for investment in Nigeria's digital and creative startups. And of course, we've seen that being distributed. But what impact do you think that has had, especially in the startup service sector?
Okay, now the basic thing is we do not have so many companies that are really playing. When I mean playing, that are playing well in those industries. And really, when we want to count them, we're not counting up to 10 of them. So we have people we have new emerging companies that are coming in. So I think that the money is really doing well. And I feel that other people, that's a space that a lot of people should look at getting into, because most of the funds now are going into tech, they are going into creativity. Yes, they are going into education, but they are going into education that has to do with tech, agri that has to do with tech. So everybody's tying fundings to tech. So when you see those kind of areas, think about how you could take what you do and then transform it into the tech space. So you don't need
digital space.
So you don't need to sit with what you're doing and do it in the traditional way. Even, for example, even the media, we could see that the media started with the traditional media. You're still doing the traditional media, but you take it to the tech. You up your game, basically, and that's what they should do.
The world is now a global village, and so we have to just keep ourselves abreast of the latest developments.